watching NotesIn9.
Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leedy. Episode 155, a Java-based debug control, Part 3. To avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. Now, that was actually a quote from Aristotle, I think, but Fred Shiro, the former coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, used to say that a lot as well. It's coming. And that's all I have to say about that. Okay, before we get into the show, we've got some XPage's notes, I guess. I just want to throw out there, I haven't really done this in a while, but where do you go to keep up with XPage's news? There's a so big community out there. I've talked about the forums before, and I've talked about Stack Overflow before, but I haven't really mentioned the blogs and stuff in quite a while. And maybe there's other places that I'm unaware of. So I still go to Planet Lotus a lot because a lot of the XPage's bloggers show up on there. Not all of them, though, so you do have to kind of hunt and pick and maybe have an RSS reader handy, and that's something I really have to get into myself, etc. But Planet Lotus is still a good place where if you are interested in Next Pages, you're going to see bloggers and articles come across the screen in that aggregator. Twitter is probably the best one, and I always have a column with that just monitors the hashtag X Pages. So if anyone tags with X Pages, and I see everything in there, and it's kind of funny. I just realized today actually that John Oldenburger, if I'm pronouncing that right, I thought I followed him because his name is just all over there. He retweets and he just does a great job of almost being an X Pages hashtag all by himself, and he's got original material and stuff too. It's not just like that's all he does. But I thought I followed him, and I realized today I did not. So I would put a shout out to him because I just thought that was just kind of funny when you think you follow somebody and you don't. If you're interested in X Pages, I'd highly recommend you follow John. His Twitter handle is at J Oldenburger, and he's kind of cool because he's a corporate developer just like me. So he's just an X Pages guy, tried and true. So that's just kind of always neat to see. Another good thing that I haven't really given a shout out in quite a while is the TLCC webinars. They do, I think, like a once a month webinar series on there. And I think this is their active link, and usually it's very great topics or so, and they've invited me on, and I had the scheduling and stuff hasn't worked out yet, but so at least up until this point, they've had very great topics on. So I hope to get on there at some point, if they'll have me and do something. I just don't know what I would do. But anyway, I highly recommend you check that out. They have replays available. A quick Google will find them for previous topics or so, and they're always very good. So what else is out there to help find information, and what other community sources are there that maybe I've not mentioned before or don't know about? So if you know of things, please let me know. Drop me a line, an email. I do enjoy that, or a comment on the blog or so, and let me know how you consume XPages based material. Okay. Today, Greg Reeder from Holistic Neck comes back on the show, and he's at Darth Heap on Twitter. So with a name like that, you gotta respect the geek credentials, that's for sure. And his blog is readerprogramming.com, and he's an all-around XPages guy and contributes on Stack Overflow and everything like that. And he's going to continue his series, and this is going to conclude, at least for the time being, his series on using Java and custom control and a kind of like error logging or kind of message handling routine. So with that being said, let's go to the demo.
Hello and welcome to part 3 of this NotesIn9 special from Raider Programming. First of all, for those of you who have been following along, this particular episode has become extremely late. The main reason for that is I had done the third video and I really was unpleased with it. I had just made way too many little mistakes that I just wanted to get out, and the buzzing in the third video was also extremely bad. I have had to replace well, not really directly, but I had to stop using a particular sound card, and I needed to use another one in order to get that buzzing to go away. So it's been a long road. Anyway, today what we're going to be looking at is actually creating our custom control, which we've been doing a great deal of behind the scenes work, getting all the scaffolding done. We built the foundation, now it's time to actually build the house. So without further ado, let's head over to Designer. Alright, so basically what I've done since the last time, besides already having this done once, is pretty much going over the Java doc information. In the last recording of this video, I did already make the faces configuration file. Really nothing too much here. The error writer we already had done in the second movie. The admin panel is what we're going to be working on today. The coding of the bean is already done, so we don't really have to worry about that. So let's just take a look at the admin panel. That's going to be an error handling. Again, nothing too dramatic. I believe I already went through what you need to do for in order to make a Java bean. Just a couple things to throw out again. A Java bean has a constructor that has no parameters. You can overload it, but you have to make sure that you have at least one constructor without any parameters. If your construction is dependent upon parameters, you could potentially read information out of a configuration file or a cookie or something like that, but generally it's best just to keep it simple, add your information then later as you need it, either from a controlling class. Nothing that we really need to be looking at today. There is another bit of information that I want to go into, and that is our string helper. Now, David Leedy had pointed out to me that a string actually has a wonderful method called isEmpty. That means this character array, yeah, we don't need that. If the string is not equal to null, and if s dot is empty, then is empty equals false. So yeah, much shorter code, much easier to read. You could also potentially put this in one line, but in here we're going to keep it in two. In other words, if it is not equal to null and it is not empty, but keep it like that. The other kind of debate that I've been having is whether or not it is better to write this if statement if s is not equal to null, or if it's best to write it if null is not equal to s. I personally see no difference between the two. I think in Java, in this IDE, you're not going to have any issues. However, I must say that in JavaScript, this is the better option, because you can't set null equal to something. So if I were to, let's just say this, because this is where the error comes in. If I were to say if null equals s in JavaScript, I would get an error here, because you can't set null equal to something. However, in JavaScript, if I say if s equals null, it silently sets s to null, and yeah, problems. At least with this variation, I get the exception. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Nothing too dramatic, nothing that we really need to get in today. It's just this is empty thing is just a optimization that I want to include for today. And again, we can do that right here as well. Alright, so basically here I want to say, I want to get rid of this. If s.trim.is empty, then is empty equals true, false. That. And of course that's if it is not empty. Okay. The Java doc would need to be updated, but we don't need to do that now. How about we get started with our custom control then? Custom controls are awesome. I find them to be one of the best things, best options for making a control that's always available no matter what application you're going to do. It's very easily transported if you're doing it correctly. A couple things we can go into. For example, we can go into properties. Let's just make this window a bit bigger. Okay. We can define our own properties. They're all going to be out of root, and we can make a property that says like admin role, and then we can see if we can calculate then dynamically for every single application what the administration role is. There's other ways to go about that. We can also hide things based on values. Whole bunch of different things we could do. It's kind of out of scope for this particular episode. I don't really want to go on that until I really have more of my utility classes, my Java classes completely filled out. At this particular point in time, we're just going to leave this. Just know for the future, we're going to be doing stuff here, but that's not going to be in Notes9, that's going to be on my private site. So we have our canvas here for our panel. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to put in a section. So that's going to be a container control. And we're going to call this one scoped variables. And we're going to give it some custom styling. I'm going to say left padding is 20 pixels. And the right padding is also 20 pixels. Okay. Now what we're going to want to do is we are going to put in, yeah, we might as well. You can do this, you can leave it out. I personally want to have another section that is for the application scope. You can keep it closed by default. To make this easier, I'm just going to come in here. So we have one for application, we have one for section, and we have one for view. and then we're not going to use any more. Sounds good. Looks good to me. So we have application scope, we have session scope, if I can spell, and we have view scope. Now what main thing here is there's an ability to very quickly open and close. Now whether or not we really need to have all of the scope variables in one parent, probably not. I think that's just going to be a little overkill. Let's just take that away. Okay. Alright. Now we want to have our application scope data located here. Not a problem. What we're going to do is we're going to take a computed field we're going to call this the application scope HTML table. We're going to set the content type to HTML, and for right now we're not going to do anything. We're going to prepare the rest of our information. Want this here as well. Session scope HTML table field. And we are going to then create another one. For our view scope HTML table. And just so that we know what we're dealing with, we're just going to write here scoped information. Scope variables. And let's just get some blank spaces in there so it's not completely flush. And yes, you can do this with you can add padding if you want to. I personally find this easier at times. Alright, so we have all of our application scope, session scope, view scope data. So let's actually initiate this. Let's take a look at our two classes. Keep in mind we have the error writer and the admin panel, but for right now we just want the admin panel. Let's see what we got here. Admin panel was the name of the bean. And what we want to do here now is we want to actually get our HTML tables. So because they need to be written exactly, we're just going to come in here and copy and paste the information. Get a application scope HTML table. Value. Yeah, data source required, highly annoying. Actually, what we could do here do it this way. And we will call this the admin panel dot get application scope HTML table. Now just to make sure that this is working, let's just do a quick little preview. we go. Application scope. And there we see all of our application scope variables. We can see that there's quite a few from the Domino API that are already started. God mode, con, awesome. Yeah. One thing that we'll see immediately though is that our styles are not being loaded. So let's just take a quick, let's just change that real quick. We want to add a resource. And this resource is our style sheet, admin panel. Okay. And now when we refresh this, we should see it right away. Alright, yes we do. I'm also not really too happy with the fact that it's flush against the sides, so we're just going to go into the All Properties section, go down to Style, and we're just going to add some padding. Call it 20 pixels, and note that we can always change that again later. With this particular resolution, this looks a little huge, so just for right now we can lower the font size. Font size to 10. Again, this isn't something that I highly recommend you do in real life. This is just something that I'm doing now for the sake of demonstration. And we're just going to update that one last time. And it really didn't do any good anyway. Probably because I have, yes, that is the issue. I have font sizes defined already for these tags, so it's not doing us any good anyway. Alright, we'll just leave it at that then. So that's pretty much all what we need to do then for the rest of these as well. It also just occurred to me, I just want to quickly move this padding over to the custom control and not to the XPage. Right. And then we're just going to add in the appropriate JavaScript to these other fields. Now we want to get our session scope. And finally our view scope. Nope. Okay, and now again, just to make sure that it's all working, go into our browser, hit F5. Yep, I forgot to change. We'll just pretend you didn't see that. I forgot to change the style here from text to HTML. Okay, view scope is empty. We don't have any view scope variables. Session scope, we're going to see some things from the extension library. We're going to see the notes client, the notes context. Yeah. I guess I don't see anything from the extension libraries necessarily. Application scope, though, is pretty full. And actually, that's nothing compared to what it is with some of my applications. And with a higher resolution, this does look better. Okay. So there's a couple things that are missing. For example, we are missing our debug panel. Now, you could put this in a section as well, or you can always keep it open. Now, what I personally recommend is the following. We are going to take a section and wrap everything up to this point into one section. Give it an ID. ID is going to be debug section. And then at the end, we're going to just close that up. Again, we can make it pretty. Clean up document. Go back to our design. Now everything is inside one. Awesome. Scope variables, I kind of wanted that in there. Not going to worry about it. We're going to give it, just going to put that in there. And then here we can have another computed field. Log info HTML table. Of course, that's HTML. And if I'm not mistaken, my function for getting the debug stuff is here. Get error table HTML table. Exactly. Value JavaScript. Admin panel. Exactly. Awesome. Okay, so when we push this up now, we're going to see that we have one panel with everything in it, including our log information. So let's just, for test purposes, go into our main page here, and we are going to put in an edit box. And we're going to put in a button. And we're going to put this, we're just going to call it input data field. And we're going to call this go with an event on click var s is equal to the get component dot get value, and for the sake of not screwing up, copy and paste. Okay, now we're going to say error writer dot write error, and just need to remember how I wrote that. Error writer level, location, and message. Okay. level location and message. The level is going to be information. The location is the name of the page and the control. Home.button1. And the message will be you have inputted bus S bus. All right. Okay. So let's just go in here. Going to refresh. And what we have now is the ability to say, hello world, go. Now, if we kind of realize here that this panel didn't refresh. We'll take care of that in a moment. Still is not there. We do see that our error rater is here, but the information isn't showing up here. Why is that? Well, we have two things going on. First of all, we don't have a refresh. Secondly, if we look in here, we have a minimum to show error level. And we're not resetting it. So what we can do for that is we can create a few JavaScript functions. First thing we want to do is we want to have a button for refresh log. This is easy to implement because all we're going to do is have an on-click event, and we're just going to initiate a partial refresh onto the log info HTML table. And that button's already done. But we also really need to have a combo box in here. And this combo box is going to have some information for us. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. We're going to include here the values located in our error level. And that is fatal error warn info debug trace. So add item. Fatal value is fatal. Then warn formation info debug and finally trace. All right. again, we can just quickly view our changes, not that that's going to make any difference yet. Okay. So we see here we have a combo box with our minimal, with an error level that we can set as minimum. What we are forgetting here, though, is delete log. And let's just give a little message here that says minimum level error level. Okay. All right. So what we could do is either here under data set the default value. It's just messy. We can set the default value to be from the admin panel, and we can do stuff with refreshes. It's best if we actually do this the way it's supposed to be used with beans. Now, to that end, I've written two very helpful functions, and that is get error level and set error level. Now, if you remember, this combo box is dealing with strings as values. It's not set up to deal with our object, but our object has a way of dealing with strings. So what I'm doing here is I have one getter and one setter. Both of them are dealing with the value for error level. When we're getting the error level, we're just getting the level from the minimum shown error level. And when we're setting it, we're just using the given string to calculate what the minimum shown error level should be. It's not that hard. I do not have an error level member of this class. If we scroll up, it's not here. We have the error level, but we don't have a string representation of it. So what we can do here is we can go into our minimum error level combo box. We can go into data. We can go into advanced, and we're going to use expression language. And all that is the name of our bean, and then the member name. And we're kind of faking it. It's always going to be working with, at least I believe it always works with the getter and setters. It doesn't actually look for error level as a member of the class. It's just going to go by the getters and setters, so they both work with strings. They're both properly named. If we do it this way, it will work. One last thing that we want to do is yet another button, and this button is going to be set, because we need, when this is changed, yeah, I guess we could just do an onChange event. Yeah, we're just going to make an onChange event. OnChange, we're just going to do a partial refresh on the log info. And I'm getting an error. Why am I getting an error value? Oh, right. And preview in the default browser. And of course it's going to take me to Notes. I don't want to look at it in Notes. I want to look at it in a browser. I mean the Internet Explorer browser. Okay, so it's automatically set to warnings because that was the default value in our object. If we change this now to trace, we're going to see that the session has started. And if we go here and say hello world, go, it's already put in there. So this is all really, really cool things that you can do. And now we can also just play around. Let's just see what everything looks like. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Haha. Well, we could, I know what we can do. We want to know what all this looks like. So we can go into our home page, and we can just copy and paste this a few times. For trace, okay. One's for trace, debug, info, warning, fatal. I think I'm missing one. Doesn't really matter though. So we have trace, debug, info, error, warning, error, and fatal. So now we can put in hello world yet again. And now we see how it looks like. We can see that trace is a very light gray, debug is then a little more tan, info is green, warning is black, error is orange, and fatal is a very large red. And that's pretty much all there is to it. And then you can add this script in wherever you want, and really go to town on that. The rest of sort of the description I'm actually going to be making now, which is hopefully going to be put in to the first video, so that you can actually see what we're doing and pretty much get excited to watch the rest of this. So rather than doing kind of like a demonstration twice, we're now going to pretty much say that with one exception, and that's delete log, we're finished. And then we're going to go into an actual demonstration in a separate video. But let's just look at this delete log functionality. And that's not too hard. We're going to be implementing it through the administration panel. And let's just look at our outline real quick. Not what I wanted. All right. Let's see here. How do I get my ports? Okay. So the admin panel is going to have a function that says clear log info. We're going to say error writer dot get session instance dot get debugger dot get error reports dot clear. And hopefully that does what I think it does. Error reports. Yeah, exactly. So what we're going to do here is go into our button. We're going to say script editor, admin panel dot clear log as well. And finally, refresh. Yeah, it can retry. Just to be on the safe side, let's open it again. I'm going to put in some information. I'm going to say hello world, go. We see a great deal of information, yay. And now delete log. And it's gone. And that's it. That is really all there is to it. It may seem like a lot of Java code for something so simple, but there's really a lot of things that we did for this. We had to come up with the whole functionality of the error levels. We had to build our HTML tables. Of course, this was not an actual part of the videos, but the style sheets had to be written. All of we had to come up with our beans. So there's a lot of functionality in the background in order to make this. But the good thing is it's in a place that it's easy to maintain. When we want to deliver this to customers, we have the ability, although this is questionable, we have the ability to just deliver jar files, which can easily be taken away and added again, and they can or cannot see the actual coding, depending on what your company prefers. It really is an awesome system, and I must say that it's also pretty fast. And I personally wouldn't want to do anything other than using Java to make such a functionality. Doing this with JavaScript would be exceedingly difficult, also because we wouldn't have the ability to really save information as well organized into the scopes. There's a couple things we could do to expand upon this. For example, the debug panel and all of these sections are directly in line here. We could use styles to make this a little nicer, a little prettier. We could add functionality to put string values directly into scoped variables. So we could have a little section here that says put this value into this view scope variable. Yeah. There's really a lot of things that we could potentially do here. We could also have another section to view all of the cookie data. There really is quite a bit that we could do. So this is very expandable. Anyway, I am really happy that I had the opportunity to go over all of this with you. I'd like to thank David Leedy one more time also for bearing with me and my very long delivery dates here. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. All of the code will be posted onto my website, readerprogramming.com. If there's anything else in particular that you, the viewers, would like me to try to look into, I'll do my best. And otherwise, we will be continuing working with Java and this tutorial series very soon. Anyway, I wish you all a very good day, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.
And that's the demo. I really thank Greg for coming on the show. It's I know I kind of sat on these shows for a little while till all the stars aligned and I could get them out, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to get them out as quickly as I could together. Again, I appreciate it. I look forward to Greg returning to the show, and we've got a whole bunch of other great contributors coming up next. So stay tuned for new contributors and a lot more Java. With that being said, with that being said, here's my contact information, and I thank you for your time.